So, I was not ready for this, and I don't think anyone actually was, because this trailer doesn't just tease another season. It quietly, almost brutally rewrites everything we thought we understood about this story. The love, the choices, the endings we already accepted. It's like the show is looking straight at us and saying, you thought that was the conclusion, that was just the illusion. And the moment that realization hits, everything feels different. Let's start from the very beginning, because just like before, the opening seconds are doing a lot more work than people realize. The trailer doesn't rush. It doesn't throw drama in your face immediately. Instead, it slows everything down. And that silence, it's not peaceful. It feels heavy, like something unresolved is sitting just beneath the surface, waiting to come back up. And then we see Cousins Beach again. And I'm telling you, the second that shoreline appears, something shifts. Because this place has never just been a setting. It holds memory, it holds history, it holds versions of these characters that no longer exist, but somehow still define everything they do. And that's when it really hits. This season is not moving forward in a clean, simple way. It's circling back. It's pulling every character back into the place where their emotions were the most raw, the most unfiltered, the most real. And that tells me something very important. Whatever peace we thought they found at the end of last season, it's not stable, it's not secure, it's being tested, hard. Then we see Belly, and immediately something feels different. Not in an obvious dramatic way, but in a quieter, more unsettling way. She's standing there, but it's like she's carrying something we can't fully see yet. She's not the same girl who once saw Cousins as this magical escape where everything made sense. But she's also not fully the person she tried to become when she stepped away from it all. She's in between. And honestly, that in-between version of her feels the most real we've ever seen. Because for the first time, it doesn't feel like Belly is chasing a fantasy. It feels like she's questioning it. Questioning what she wants, why she wants it, and whether the version of love she believed in is actually something she can live with. And that shift alone, that changes everything. Because if Belly starts questioning the foundation of her feelings, then every relationship connected to her starts to feel unstable. And then Conrad enters the frame. And just like that, the tension is back. But it's not the same kind of tension we've seen before. It's quieter, more controlled, but also more complicated. Because this isn't about will they or won't they anymore. That question has already been answered. They chose each other, they had their moment. The big emotional payoff already happened. And yet, it doesn't feel resolved. If anything, it feels like that decision opened the door to even harder questions. Because here's the truth, the trailer is very clearly hinting at. Choosing someone is not the same as understanding them. And it's definitely not the same as being ready for everything that comes with them. Conrad and Belly might love each other, but love doesn't erase history. It doesn't erase the confusion, the timing issues, the emotional distance, or the fact that their entire relationship has been built on moments that were never fully stable to begin with. And the trailer doesn't try to hide that, it leans into it. You can see it in the way they look at each other, like there's something they're both trying to hold on to, but neither of them is completely sure how. It's not the kind of love that feels easy. It's the kind that feels fragile. Like one wrong move, one honest conversation, one truth said out loud could shift everything again. And that's where things start to feel different from previous seasons. Because before, the conflict was always external in some way. Timing, misunderstandings, other relationships. But now, it feels internal. It feels like the real conflict is coming from within them, from the parts of themselves they've avoided confronting until now. And then there's that moment, the one that doesn't last long but says everything. The hint of letters, and if you know, you know. Because those letters were never just about romance. They were about honesty, about slowing things down, about actually taking the time to understand each other, instead of rushing into decisions driven by emotion. And the fact that the trailer is bringing that element back tells me something very important. This season might finally be willing to do what the previous one didn't. It might actually sit with the emotions instead of rushing past them. But here's where it gets complicated. Because while all of this suggests growth, healing, maybe even a deeper kind of love, the overall tone of the trailer doesn't feel comforting. It feels uncertain. There are pauses in conversations that feel too long, glances that feel loaded, moments where it's clear that something is being left unsaid. And when a show starts emphasizing what isn't being said, that's when you know the real conflict is just beginning. And I keep coming back to this one thought. What if this season isn't about proving that Belly and Conrad belong together? What if it's about questioning whether they ever truly did? Not in a dramatic they don't love each other way, but in a quieter, more unsettling way. Like maybe they've been holding on to an idea of each other that doesn't fully match who they are now. Because people change, and this trailer feels like it understands that in a way the show hasn't fully explored before. The versions of these characters that fell in love might not be the same versions standing here now. And if that's true, then everything becomes more complicated. And that's exactly what this trailer is promising. Not a simple continuation, not an easy romance, but a story that goes deeper, gets messier, and forces these characters to finally face the truths they've been avoiding. And honestly, that's what makes this season feel different. Because for the first time, it doesn't feel like we know where this is going. Now let's really get into what this trailer is quietly telling us. Because the more you look at it, the more it feels like nothing about this season is going to be simple. And I think the biggest shift starts with something very subtle. The way time feels in this trailer. Everything moves slower. Conversations feel heavier. Even the silences feel intentional. And that's important because when a show suddenly starts slowing down like this, it usually means one thing. It's about to focus on emotions that can't be rushed anymore. And that's exactly what it feels like is happening here. Because if you think about where we left off, everything moved fast. Decisions were made quickly. Feelings were declared in big dramatic moments. And at the time it felt satisfying. It felt like we finally got the answers we had been waiting for. But now, looking at this trailer, it almost feels like the show is questioning those answers. Like it's asking what happens after the moment you thought would fix everything. And that question changes everything. Because now, instead of building toward a big romantic payoff, the story is dealing with the aftermath of one. And the aftermath is always messier. It's where reality starts to settle in. It's where emotions that were pushed aside suddenly come back, stronger and harder to ignore. You can see that especially in the way Belly is being presented here. There's a quiet distance in her that wasn't there before. Not coldness, not detachment, but awareness. Like she's finally seeing things clearly, maybe for the first time. And that kind of clarity can be dangerous, especially in a story like this. Because once you start seeing things clearly, you can't unsee them. And I think that's exactly where Belly is right now. She's no longer just reacting to her feelings in the moment. She's starting to reflect on them, to question them, to understand where they come from and what they actually mean. And that might sound like growth, but it also creates tension. Because the more she understands herself, the more she might realize that some of her past choices weren't as simple or as certain as they felt at the time. And that directly affects her relationship with Conrad. Because their relationship has always been built on intensity, on moments that feel overwhelming and emotional and almost impossible to ignore. But intensity doesn't always translate into stability. And this trailer feels like it's finally exploring that difference. There are moments between them that feel quiet in a way we haven't really seen before. Not awkward, not disconnected, but thoughtful. Like both of them are holding something back, or maybe trying to say something they don't fully know how to express yet. And that kind of hesitation usually means one thing: there are conversations coming that neither of them is ready for. And when those conversations happen, they're going to matter. Because this isn't about whether they love each other anymore. That part is clear. The real question now is whether they understand each other enough to make that love work in the real world, outside of the moments that brought them together in the first place. And the trailer keeps hinting at that idea without ever fully saying it out loud. It shows us fragments, pieces of tension, small emotional shifts, moments where something feels slightly off. And those small moments are doing a lot of heavy lifting. Because they suggest that whatever issues Conrad and Belly have been avoiding, they're not going away this time. They're coming to the surface. And what makes this even more interesting is the atmosphere around them. It doesn't feel chaotic or explosive, at least not yet. It feels controlled, like everything is being held together very carefully. And that kind of control usually means one thing in storytelling: something is building underneath it. Because when emotions are this contained, when everything feels this measured, it's usually leading to a moment where all of that control breaks. And when it does, it hits harder. That's why this trailer feels so different. It's not trying to shock you with big dramatic scenes. It's creating tension through restraint, through what isn't being said, what isn't being shown completely, what's being hinted at instead of revealed. And honestly, that's a much more powerful kind of storytelling, because it pulls you in. It makes you pay attention. It makes you start asking questions instead of just reacting to what's happening on screen. And the biggest question this first part of the trailer leaves us with is simple, but also kind of unsettling. Are Conrad and Belly actually ready for the version of love they fought so hard to get? Because wanting something and being able to sustain it are two very different things. And this season feels like it's going to explore that difference in a way we haven't really seen before. And if that's true, then everything we thought was settled might not be settled at all. Now here's where the trailer really starts to shift, because up until this point, it almost feels like we're being guided into a quieter, more reflective version of the story. But then, little by little, something else starts to surface. Something more complicated, more uncomfortable. And it all centers around one idea: The past isn't done with them. Because the more you watch this trailer, the more it becomes clear that this season is not just about what happens next. It's about what was never fully dealt with before. The emotions that were pushed aside, the conversations that never happened, the choices that were made too quickly, all of it is coming back. And you can feel that especially in the way the trailer starts hinting at distance between characters who are technically closer than ever. Take Belly and Conrad again. There are moments where they're physically together but emotionally something feels slightly out of sync, like they're not standing in the same place internally. And that's such a subtle detail, but it matters, because relationships don't fall apart all at once. They shift slowly, quietly, in ways that are easy to ignore at first. And this trailer feels like it's capturing those early shifts. There's a certain hesitation in the way they interact, not doubt exactly, but uncertainty. Like both of them are trying to hold on to what they have, while also realizing that it's not as simple as they hoped it would be. And that realization alone can create tension, even without any big dramatic conflict. Because once doubt enters the picture, even in the smallest way, it changes how everything feels. And then we get those glimpses of conversations that clearly aren't easy. Moments where voices are lower, expressions are more guarded, and it feels like something important is being said, or almost said. And those almost moments are the ones that usually lead to the biggest consequences, because what people don't say can matter just as much as what they do. And I think that's exactly where this season is going to hit the hardest. Not just in the arguments or the emotional breakdowns, but in the quiet miscommunications, the things left unsaid, the feelings that are understood, but never fully expressed. But here's where it gets even more layered, because this tension isn't just limited to Belly and Conrad.